Hey everyone, welcome back to another explainer. Go ahead and just take a deep breath, settle in, and get comfortable. Today, we're going to embark on a really slow, contemplative, and honestly profound journey into the hidden machinery of our daily lives. We are looking deep into the architecture of modern society, a structure that surrounds us so completely we usually don't even realize it's there at all. We'll be unpacking the revolutionary ideas of the philosopher Jean Baudrillard to answer a question that, let's be real, haunts almost all of us at some point, and that is why we literally can't stop buying what everyone else wants.
I want you to think about your everyday experience for a second. Think about that creeping, heavy sense of consumer fatigue. You know the feeling, right? The endless scrolling, the highly targeted ads following you around. That nagging feeling that you constantly need to upgrade your phone, your wardrobe, your entire lifestyle. We tell ourselves that we buy these things because we organically want them. We completely buy into this myth of spontaneous choice, this idea that our desires originate deep down inside of us. But what if they don't? What if every single thing you think you want has actually been meticulously planted in your mind? Let that question just linger for a moment. Are your desires really your own?
Okay, let's dive into this. Part 1. The illusion of free choice. To really understand this, we have to start by completely dismantling the very foundation of how we're taught the economy works. We are constantly spoon-fed a really comforting story about freedom and individuality. But let's look at the cold, hard mechanics of how modern society actually operates. We need to look at what economists like John Kenneth Galbraith called the accepted sequence versus the revised sequence. So the myth, the accepted sequence, says that consumer initiative drives the market. Basically, you have a need, and the factory builds a product to satisfy that need. It's a beautiful, simple story of the freedom of individual choice. But the reality is the exact opposite. Manufacturers are actually the ones controlling market behavior. They have these massive, incredibly expensive industrial systems that absolutely must keep producing just to survive. Because of that, production itself has to stimulate specific demands. The market doesn't accommodate your personal freedom, it accommodates your social attitudes to fit the needs of the producers.
Let's pause right here. I really want you to sit with the immense weight of this paradigm-shifting idea from Jean Baudrillard. He wrote, "The system of needs is the product of the system of production." Let that sink in. Production does not exist to meet our needs. Actually, scratch that, it's more like our needs are created, deliberately and systematically, to justify endless production. Think about it. If a factory produces 1,000,000 widgets, the economic system must suddenly produce 1,000,000 people who magically feel a deeply personal need for those widgets. Your psychological lack, that hollow feeling that you just don't have enough, is manufactured just as surely as the plastic and steel rolling off the assembly line.
Moving right along to part 2, manufacturing your inner desires. So, moving from the factory floor to the inner workings of your mind, we need to understand how your inner psychological landscape, your very sense of self and desire, is quite literally treated as an extension of the industrial machine. Baudrillard argues that we aren't just trained to want specific isolated objects one by one. It's way deeper than that. We are conditioned with something much broader, which he calls consumption power. This is an overall propensity, an entire integrated system of needs. You don't just desire a car, you are initiated into a comprehensive system where you must absorb the economic output of the entire society. It is a highly rationalized force. Your desire isn't some whimsical poetic longing. It's a calculated, strictly necessary component of a massive economic engine. Without your continuous, insatiable consumption power, the whole system just collapses under its own weight.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how this genealogy perfectly maps the historical evolution of capitalist control. It's like a giant puzzle coming together over centuries. In the beginning, the system produced the machine. That was the technical revolution. Then it produced capital, a rational system of investment. Next, it transformed human beings into waged labor power, effectively systematizing our physical force. But the final, ultimate stage? That is the system of needs. Having successfully controlled our bodies and our time on the factory floor, the system finally evolved to control our desires. It created rationalized consumption power. Your inner needs are actually the most advanced invisible productive force in all of human history.
Which brings us to part 3, training the modern consumer. This brings up a really fascinating historical perspective. How exactly were human beings disciplined to participate in this? Because, let's be honest, we weren't born knowing how to be endless consumers. We had to be rigorously, systematically trained. Imagine the stark, almost cinematic contrast here. Back in the 19th century, vast rural populations were forced off their land and disciplined for the factory floor. They had to be broken in, trained to obey the clock, to endure pressurized work, to become labor power. It was a brutal, physical kind of conditioning. Fast forward to the 20th and 21st centuries, and the training ground completely shifted. The new masses had to be trained in systematic, organized consumption. We are literally the modern equivalent of those early factory workers, but instead of clocking in with a punch card, our discipline is enforced every single time we swipe a credit card. We are meticulously trained to consume.
And this brilliantly illuminates the true nature of modern financial tools. We're constantly told that credit cards and loans are a liberation of our desires. Buy now, pay later. I mean, it sounds like freedom, doesn't it? It sounds like the ultimate instant gratification. But Baudrillard absolutely strips away this mask. Credit is actually a disciplinary process. It is the extortion of your future savings. It forces you into economic foresight, budgetary constraints, and basic capitalist behavior. It's a mental training ground that chains you to the system, ensuring that your future labor is already promised to the engine of consumption long before you've even earned the money.
And the crazy thing is, this discipline extends even into our leisure time, creating what Baudrillard calls the fun system. In the modern world, enjoyment is no longer a spontaneous, simple pleasure. It has become an enforced, institutionalized obligation. We live under this intense fun morality. We're maximizing your existence, trying every new hyped-up restaurant, going on exotic vacations, participating in every viral trend is treated as a strict duty. We are absolutely terrified of missing out, not because we actually genuinely want to do these things, but because society quietly dictates that we have no right not to be happy and constantly engaged.
Moving to Part 4, the civic duty to consume. All of this leads us to a pretty jarring realization. If our desires are totally manufactured and our fun is actually an enforced obligation, then our shopping habits are not leisure at all. They are a form of coerced social labor. Consider this historical excerpt that Baudrillard highlights. When people went to stores to replace their perfectly functional electric fans with brand new air conditioners, the media actually praised them for performing their civic duty. They were seen as saving the economy. Buying viral objects and doing endless tech upgrades is fundamentally tied to keeping the economic machine from collapsing under the weight of its own overproduction. If the factories produce air conditioners, the citizen must step up and buy them. Your purchase is treated as a vital service to the state and the market. So the crucial point is this: you are a worker even when you are out shopping. The modern consumer is mobilized as a consumption worker to perform the social labor of endless purchasing. That fanatical egoism we feel when we're hunting for the perfect item online or aggressively rushing to a Black Friday sale, it's our subconscious realization that we are the newly exploited subjects of modern times. We are doing the heavy lifting for a system that overproduces. And the wildest part is, we are paying for the privilege with our own money and our own time. Finally, Part 5, escaping the consumer trap. But listen, there is a way out of this. Once we unmask the system's hidden reliance on our continuous dissatisfaction, we can actually begin to untangle ourselves from its grip. And we do that by recognizing the hidden realities of what we call the growth society. We are told day in and day out that endless economic growth will eventually bring true affluence and solve all our problems. But that is a complete lie. The system actually survives by producing wealth and poverty simultaneously. It survives on structural penury, which means keeping society perpetually out of kilter, in a constant state of disequilibrium. It ensures that our needs will always, somehow, magically, outstrip whatever is produced. No matter how much is manufactured, you will always be made to feel that you are lacking something. The system literally condemns us to a spectacular, continuous shortage just to keep us running on the treadmill. Which leaves us with this final, deeply provocative thought. If everything we've explored today is true, if the system of production manufactured your needs solely to save itself from overproduction, to train you and to turn you into a consumption worker, what happens the exact moment you realize you don't actually need any of it? What happens when you drop the guilt, step off the treadmill, and finally reclaim your own mind? Now that is true liberation. Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with me today. Keep questioning everything, and I'll see you next time.